Bet you feel like buying some handful merchandise now, huh?
Hey guys, what's up? Lately, I've been getting a lot of emails asking me, Oliver, I have a big agenda I want to push through, but I'm not sure how. Well, a lot of people try bribes, a lot of other people try compelling arguments, but bribes can become expensive and compelling arguments take time and energy to construct. I must ask you, sirs and madams, have you ever considered fear-mongering? Renowned horror author H.P. Lovecraft, whom both Stephen King and Clive Barker have acknowledged as a cornerstone of the genre, has a famous quote in which he says that the oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. He also was an anti-Semitic that married a much older Jewish lady, so, he had his problems. And so do you! But don't let that deter you from taking a chance on good old fear-mongering. You see, Lovecraft was right. Fear is a very old and powerful emotion. It's there to protect us from danger. I mean, back in loincloth days, if you stumbled near, say, a panther, then it'd be good old fear that would save your life by being very difficult to ignore. Wanting your message to be very difficult to ignore, you're going to want to try and keep your target audience in what psychologists have never defined as a near panther-like state. Fear-mongering has been around for a very long time, and I'd have to say that my favorite historical fearmonger was definitely a Roman statesman by the name of Cato the Elder. You see, Cato the Elder didn't much care for the opposing state of Carthage, so he tried to whip the Romans up into being afraid of them so that they would wage war with them. So he made a habit of working, and Carthage must be destroyed, onto the end of anything he said in public, whether or not it had to do with Carthage or even war in general. There is no room for those without stamina in the panther-eat-panther world of fear-mongering. You can also be a lot more subtle than good old Cato by working through the medium of fiction. For example, during the back end of the Victorian era and the first few years of the 20th century, there was a very popular literary genre in England known as invasion novels. During this period, there were plenty of people who wanted England to go to war with various European powers, so what they did would be to write or ghostwrite a novel in which England would be invaded by the offending European power, but then drive out the Europeans using methods which would be made to look really awesome by being used by the hero of the novel. Just as an aside, my new book comes out this fall. It will be available in most major bookstores as well as Amazon.com. The other half of Lovecraft's quotation is also very important. You see, the less detail you can give people about what you're trying to get them scared with, the better. You have to be very careful not to give so little detail that believability flies out the window, and there's not much to stir people's imaginations, but not give enough details that people can figure out you're making a mountain out of a molehill. So as I say, fear-mongering is a great way to tap into a very primal part of people's minds that's very difficult to ignore. American personalities on television, as well as their politicians, have had a whale of a time slipping through their agendas by making the public afraid of physical harm and vague notions of their freedoms being taken away. Plus, I think it's reasonable to say that by whipping up the public into a frenzy about paedophiles, a pretty decent profit has been made by numerous British newspapers. In the end, for all its perks, fear-mongering is still a despicable abuse of the public's trust in institutions that sometimes leads to the creation of monsters that can turn on their creators. However, if you're an unscrupulous bastard who can only think in the short term, then I'd say, yeah, go for it. Remember, most major bookstores and Amazon.com this fall.
Never mind that, here's a preview of my new book, How to Make Love Like a Narrator. Step 1. Convince your partner to close their eyes and develop an affection for old-time radio. Step 2. Fade out. Feel free to improv further steps.
By working through the medium of fiction. You see, for example, there was a lot of shitting by this host. Alright. However, if you're an unscrupulous bastard who is only able to think in the short term, then I'd say, yeah, go for it. Go for it. Yeah. God. Huh? For example, during the back end of the Victorian era, and even during the first few years of the 20th century, the Victorian era? I'm sorry, I can't let that pass. In fact, when we were back running around in loincloth days, we got really itchy and couldn't pay attention to what we were doing. I'm sorry. Cut.